Hey guys, welcome to my Let's Talk channel. If you're new here, which you probably are because I'm very new here, I make unscripted conversation about just everyday things in life. It could be about something serious, something random, it really doesn't matter. And my goal here is to just be a relatable channel that you can listen to and be interactive with if you wish. And I just want to create an environment where you can throw this on and listen to it in the background as you're getting things done, because chances are, if I'm having thoughts about this topic, then others have to feel the same way too. So why not put it into content form, and why not it be something that we can bond over? And so today I want to talk about the pressure to have everything figured out. I think one of the hardest lessons when I entered adulthood was basically how it feels like a constant race. It feels like that finish line is constantly moving further and further, and it's so easy to get stuck in that trap of like, I'm not making progress or I'm not where I need to be. And then whenever you enter that mindset, it gets really hard to come across like major milestones, like birthdays or holidays or the New Year's especially, because it's kind of a reminder of like, damn, I kind of wanted to be here by now and I'm not here yet. If you think back to when you were in school, you're stuck in a building with all those kids your age. And I feel like it's a really good sample size of everybody you're ever going to meet in life. So you're in that classroom, you've got the ultra smart people in one corner, obviously, like they're definitely going to be doctors or astronauts or something when they grow up. You've got the athletes in a corner, you've got some skaters and emo and goth, and you've got the bullies. You've got basically everyone that you're ever going to encounter later in life. Everybody, that whole sample size is right there with you in grade school. But the thing about grade school is, regardless of your intelligence level, your athletic level, whatever, you're all going to be in that same environment. Sure, there's slight differences. Like if you're a little bit smarter, for example, you might be in the smarter courses. If you're a better athlete, then you'll be on like the varsity teams, whatever. But even then, you're in the same environment as everybody, as the guy who absolutely isn't at your level or the guy that's 10 levels above you. We're forced to kind of be around each other year after year after year, and you're doing this all the way up until like high school ends. And so no matter how, I don't want to say smart and not smart because that's a very like judgy way to say it, but no matter where somebody is in life, you're forced to kind of be right next to each other. And so I think in high school, we don't get to experience the whole like the race of life, because nobody's gonna race past you. Like you're all gonna graduate the same day. If you want to graduate, you're all gonna move up a class the same day. You might have a very select few people who like skip a grade or something, but 99% of the time you're right there side by side with all of your peers. So it doesn't feel like a race. You're there. In fact, I remember I moved to this country when I was in third grade, and I didn't know English. I remember I didn't know English, and I failed that half of third grade that I did here in the States. And then I failed fourth grade too. And it was mainly because of my English. I had the knowledge elsewhere, like if it was like math or geography or whatever you learn in school back then. I had the knowledge, and I was probably like a solid B- student, I want to say. But because my English was so bad, I literally couldn't speak, and I was failing every English course because I couldn't spell. I remember like my school asked to like hold me back, and my parents said no, like keep him going and he'll catch up one day. And so in some way, like I didn't even deserve to move up a grade, but I did. Because my parents gave me permission. And then within a year or two, I was perfectly caught up with everybody. And so, that whole difference in where you are in life, it's just not there in high school. But then right after high school, what do you start to notice? Some of your peers are at Harvard, and then the other ones are not even enrolled in a graduate or like an undergrad program. Some of them go directly into the trades. Some of them start like restaurant work or like handyman work or whatever. And now everybody is on vastly different paths. And then where the finish line comes, or where the milestones come for each person's respective career, is so different from the other person. Now the pay looks different. Now your lifestyle looks different. The car you drive looks different. The clothes you wear look different. And before you know it, you're living completely different lives. And that's where it gets to the point where like, okay, wait, look where he is, look where she is. Why am I not there yet? I think it's one of the hardest lessons, or not even lesson, but it's just one of those eye-opening things that you only get exposed to after high school. And if I'm being honest, like if you consciously think about this, if you're that age, or you can be past that age, but if you still just sit here and consciously think about that for the first time, it's kind of eye-opening. And it probably makes you want to give your past self a little bit of, like cut yourself some slack if you were too hard on yourself. Because the truth is, right now, nobody knows what they're doing. People act like they know what they're doing, they act like they're better off. But at the same time, I think everybody is equally confused in whatever field they're in, whatever other aspects of life they're in, whatever side endeavors they're in, their relationship, their other goals. Chances are nobody has it figured out, but people are so good. They're so good and strong at masking it. They're so good at putting on this appearance of, it looks like they've got it all figured out, and they're smiling and laughing and talking about their accomplishments. And look, I'm not somebody who openly talks about my accomplishments like that. It's just not, my brain doesn't think that way. I don't brag on myself like that, you know? And so sometimes naturally you hear these things from these people that you grew up with, and you're like, damn, like that's what your pay looks like, or that's what, that's the house you live in. Like, what am I doing wrong with my life? And I think it's easy to think that, they've got it figured out and we don't. And that's absolutely not the case. One of the worst things that we were faced with, like, growing up, now I'm 29, so I say we, but especially like the age group younger than me, because it only got worse, is social media. Obviously social media was always there growing up, but like I was in school when I remember when like YouTube first came out, and then it was like Snapchat, and everybody was obsessed with like the snap streaks, and then the Facebook era, and then Facebook died out pretty quick, and then Instagram took over, and Twitter. But it was kind of like that beginning phase for me. It definitely was still popular. Like, I'm not some 50-year-old right now talking about like back in my day. Like, no, like social media was still very much strong. It picked up pretty quick. But what I'm trying to say is like the age group that's younger than me, they're getting hit the hardest, because now like social media is so good at like targeting you, and they're tracking your usage. They know exactly what you like and what you don't like. They're targeting ads towards you. And also, I think social media is just this dump of like dopamine in the worst way possible. And then TikTok came out, and the TikTok brain came out, and the next thing you know, like, it's just a whole different level of thinking. People's attention spans literally aren't there. But I guess in the context of like the topic of this video, just the pressure of adulthood and having everything figured out, social media makes that a lot worse, because now you have access to people's, basically their highlight reel of their life. The best trip they took, the best outfits they wore, the best types of foods they're eating, the people that they're with, because it's so rare to see people just being honest on social media. If you had a lazy day and you didn't get out of bed until so late, and worse, like, what if you had a mental health day? What if you're having a mental health month? What if you're really fucking struggling, but you want to feel connected to the world still? Like, who is going to post a picture of them laying in bed, like, rotting away, saying, like, hey, it's kind of been a tough week, but blah, 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 blah. It's just not a thing. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be a thing. I'm just saying, like, with the way social media is set up and with the way that the world currently works, it's almost not encouraged for people to do that. And so now you're forced to see just the good of other people. And they look amazing, and they're doing amazing things. And man, like, in the back of your head, like, if you start to compare yourself, I don't even blame you, because I think anybody would, if that's what you're faced with constantly. I don't want to be here and say that like I've got things figured out, because I absolutely don't. Again, I'm 29, and I don't know, like I've got some friends like older than me, younger than me. I've got some other acquaintances that are younger than me for sure, and they see me and they're like, oh yeah, you're 29, you're an old man, you must have got it all figured out. That's absolutely not the case. That's absolutely not the case. I consider myself in a pretty good career field right now with what I do and the industry that I'm in. But at the same time, like right before I started recording this, I was doing job applications, and I am looking at changing my career entirely. And I mean entirely. Now, I don't think I have it in me to go back to grad school or to earn another degree. And I don't think I've got the energy to do all that. But even then, the point is that like I started a career, I worked at a firm, I got laid off, I got hired somewhere else, like across the country. I still have that job now for a little over 2 years. But at the same time, like I don't have it figured out. I don't know what I want to be doing for the long term. Like there's a job that I want that I can successfully hold for, 15, 20 years. Like I want to be that guy at the company, like the guy that's been there forever, the guy that's tenured and like the industry expert or whatever. I want to be that guy. Obviously, who doesn't? But I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know what industry that's going to be or what job that's going to be. So I don't have it figured out. And honestly, like I was having like a pretty bad mental health day earlier this week, and I even journaled, and I wrote down this isn't my forever. And I think people only use that term when they're talking about like feelings. Like if you're sad, like, oh, that's not your forever. If you're heartbroken, it's not your forever. If you're going through it in life, or if you're broke, it's not your forever. Yeah, all of that applies. But also, I wrote down like, no, this job is not my forever. This city might not be my forever. This era might not be my forever. My current goals might not be my forever. None of this is my forever. And none of this is your forever too. In some ways, yeah, it makes things confusing, but in other ways, I think it's reassuring too. Because if you're in charge of your own destiny and your own goals and you get to pick what you want to be, then are you really ever behind? Well, maybe you're not. You know, it's a different way to think about it, but it's again, it's a nice little thought to have, a thought experiment. So if you journal, I think that's a really good thing to ponder about. I think one difficult thing when you're trying to get like career advice or just life advice, goals, or like a mentor, you know, people come at you with a plan or ideas or brainstorm, and it's helpful. Obviously it's helpful, yes. But how many times have people just come to you completely clear, completely transparent with uncertainty? Like, how many times do they keep it so fucking real with you, saying, hey, try this out, but it might not work. Try to have this thought, but it might not serve you, but try. Try to think about it this way. It might not be your forever, but try to see it a different way. Try to do this, try to do that. It might not work. You might end up coming back to ground zero like 3 years from now, and we have the same conversation again, and you try something else. But the whole aspect of uncertainty, the whole aspect of not knowing but still trying your best, I think it's not talked about enough. And I think it's one of the most real topics in anything, in life, in adulthood, in a career, in your personal goals, your family goals, like who you want to be as a man or a woman as you grow up. There's so much uncertainty. There is a gray area. You're allowed to not know. You're allowed to have a vague direction and not know. Honestly, I think like if my life can be summed up, like that might be the best way to put it, is I have a vague direction of who I want to be. If one day I get to be a father, then what kind of father I want to be, what kind of brother, son, friend, what kind of a career, like I think about these things. And if I'm being honest, I don't know. But at the same time, like I have direction. I know general things, you know, like for example, I want to be the hardest worker in the room. I want to have a level of discipline that like others look at and they're astonished by. Like, look how hard that guy motherfucking works. I want to have levels of empathy. I want to be able to have heart towards people. So when they share their problems or their life or whatever, I want to be that guy that's there to listen, to receive it, to make them feel open, safe, welcome, loved in their lowest moments. These are absolute goals of mine. But beyond that, I don't have any specifics of where I want to be or who I want to be. But I have direction, right? And sometimes direction comes with a little bit of uncertainty. So if you've ever found yourself knowing like you kind of know where you want to be but not quite, and if that thought ever gives you anxiety, then I only share this to kind of reassure you that you're not on the wrong path. You're actually on the right path, because sometimes not knowing is the first step to knowing. You know, being confused is the first step to not being confused. Like making the wrong turn is the first step to getting to that final destination. God, I really like this topic. I just wrote down the topic on my computer. I have no notes. I've got nothing. I just wrote down the words, the pressure to have everything figured out. And man, I could talk forever, but YouTube will cut me off at 15 minutes because I have some stupid verification issue or something. So like once I get my account verified, I can talk for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. And you best bet that when that time comes and when these topics come up, like I will ramble away. I will be responding to comments if they ever come in. I'll be interacting with you guys more. And I have so much more I want to talk to you guys about on this topic. But for this upload, I'm going to cut it here. So if you listen to any of this, then I really appreciate you tagging it along. And yeah, I want to make this an interactive channel. So if you have any topics that you'd like to talk about, something that's just vulnerable, real, it could be, you know, life related, personal related, anything, just drop it in the comments and I would be happy to make a video. I'm no expert, but at the same time, like I do care, and I'm always open to making just open, honest videos about whatever I can and just offering my 2 cents. All right, thank you guys. Peace.